Hold on for a second. What's up, YouTube family? I would like you guys to make sure you like and subscribe to our video. It would help us get into the algorithms so we could be seen and bring more engaging content to you guys. So, like I said, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Appreciate you. Welcome to another edition of the Pick and Downs podcast. I am your host, for usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zoo and Peebush. How you fellas doing?
I'm doing well, man. Spent a little time down in Nashville this past weekend. Good time, man. Hot as hell, though. It's hot as hell, Sean. I don't know how you deal with South Carolina, which is I'll be there in 3 weeks. Actually, I'm going out to outside of Charleston in a couple weeks. But yeah, man, got to watch some great NBA games out. Man, that Luka step back for the win, man. Woo, just beautiful. Couple, I know we'll talk about, man, but tough to watch the Pacers, man. Their inexperience has finally shown through. But I will say, man, that series should be tied. And I said this to Sean pre-production. That series should be tied 2-2 right now based on win probabilities, man, towards the end of games. But that's not the way it shakes out, Zoo. That ain't the way it shakes out. And inexperience, like I said, shines through in the NBA especially.
Yeah, dude, youth, man. Just playing extremely well against this Boston Celtics team, this Indiana Pacers team, but just can't get it done. But it's one of those stories where your moment's not now. You're a nice, young, cute, storied team that made the conference finals run. You meet against a team that just had heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak, and it's their time now. It's their time to shine. They're going to have a berth to the NBA Finals to see a chance to have some redemption after losing a couple years ago to the Golden State Warriors back in the day when they were the prohibitive favorite, I would say, that Boston Celtics team. So you got a chance of redemption. Yeah. So they got a chance of redemption. I think even Indiana fans, all you could do is clap your hands. Your best player got injured. He was out. He was looking like Arthur on the bench out there. So they put up a competitive fight without their best player. So you got to shout at the Indiana Pacers. They played extremely hard. I got to shout at Andrew Nembhard.
Yes,
we were just talking about him.
Yeah, I remember him and Gonzaga. Yeah, it was like a nice little point fight. He's showing that he's a real NBA guy. So
good combo guard.
Exactly. Like Indiana showing something. They got some nice young talent up for the future, but they're a future team, man. And for that Dallas series, that Luka Doncic, man, Jesus Christ.
Another future team in Minnesota.
Dude, oh my God. This guy's doing that shit talking, straight hustle, man. He's hustling Ant Edwards, man. That's what he's doing, man.
That knee looks nice now. I know he's still laboring, and I saw on a TNT one of the posts. I think after the game winner, he had the big old bag of ice on his knees, which a lot of NBA players do. But whatever the Dallas medical staff is doing, they're getting him right because he's making clutch shot after clutch shot. And one quick fact on comment on the Pacers. I was telling people, it's like Nembhard has played to the point where I almost wonder, like, I don't know what holes they need to fill, and I guess you just want to maybe keep him on your team because, like I said, he's a combo guard, so he's not really a true point. But it's like his fight and just elite shot making was a pleasant surprise, and it's making me wonder and think about the Pacers next year when they get Bennett Mathurin back, and of course Tyree is going to be back and healthy. That team's going to, and I don't know what their draft capital is this year. Maybe they can make another trade up in the draft and maybe get somebody that is because like I said, in this draft, it's a lot of guys who can fit specific needs. So it's like if they find somebody in the draft that could fill a cog, they could be interesting next year. And, I know it's a lot of jokes on the East and it being weak, but next year could be the year where it's like, okay, now these teams are starting to grow. So salute to the Pacers. You got nothing to hold your head down on. But we're going to get into these conference finals. Dallas, and I guess when we're recording it tonight, Dallas is, playing Minnesota and seeing if they're going to be able to complete the sweep. But I want to get the guys' thoughts on those games with Dallas and Dallas and Minnesota and Boston and Indiana, and people, you can start us off.
Man, yeah, I mean, you guys said it already. Shout out to the Pacers, man. Zoo, I think you made a great comparison last year, very much like that Trae Young Hawks team that made the Eastern Conference Finals a handful of years ago. Unfortunately, Zoo, let's just hope that they don't follow the same path that Hawks team did and kind of stayed irrelevant in that Chicago Bulls no man's land is what I like to call it, man. Unfortunately, that's kind of how the East has been shaking out the last couple of years. Some teams just hovering around the 500, below 500 mark. But to your point, I think, Sean, you asked us kind of who to place blame on. I don't think, you can blame it on experience. I think everybody saw that the decision-making and the turnovers were probably the biggest part of that series. I mean, if you look at total stats, the Pacers had 62 in the series, and that's across 4 games. All right. Yeah. And the Celtics only had 42. And so a 20 turnover differential, those were coming in crucial minutes, empty possessions, poor shot selection. And honestly, that one steal by Jrue Holiday was great defense too. So, you're going up against a superior team with more experience. I don't think you can really place blame on anything other than, hey, maybe Miles Turner didn't start showing up towards the latter half of the series, but he is a beneficiary of Tyrese Halliburton in that 2-man game. And once Tyrese went out for games 3 and 4, it was going to be really hard for Miles Turner to really get going, get that top of the key 3-point shot, Zoo. That's his bread and butter, especially when he doesn't have a hand in the face. So, it's hard for me to blame anybody. I thought Pascal Siakam actually played a fantastic series. You've already shouted out Nembhard. TJ McConnell, unbelievable backup. I've said that multiple podcasts now.
I think he could be a starter.
He could be a starter.
I think he could be a starter.
He could. You know what he could be? He could be like a Mike Conley kind of guy for their own respective team in a starting lineup. So we'll see if he gets moved around. I'm not sure of his contract situation. But as for the Celtics, man, I'm pissed I didn't take Jaylen Brown for Eastern Conference Finals MVP, man. But based on how Tatum was playing in the playoffs, it wouldn't have been a bad bet. I mean, Brown. I mean, he showed up scoring wise. He was aggressive on the defensive end. Tatum did end up putting up pretty good numbers. He had a couple really nice games. But this was Jaylen Brown's series. Jrue Holiday definitely stepped up as well. I actually was, and I said this at the beginning of the series. With Al Horford, I thought that was going to be something that the Pacers were going to exploit. And in game 1, they did. Miles Turner had almost 20 points in the first half against Al Horford. But Mazzulla and the team, they made some adjustments. They kind of forced Miles Turner out of the pick and pop game. They out-schemed him, Zoo, on both ends of the floor. So I was impressed that it was a clean sweep, even though it shouldn't have been. The Celtics had the perseverance to close out some of those janky first quarter to third quarters. They somehow pulled it together towards the end of the fourth quarter every single time. And this is the outcome, man. So it's exactly what we thought. Once the Bucks got injured, I think we all saw the Celtics coming through. So not too against expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when the Bucks and the Philadelphia, those injuries occurred, man, right before the start of the playoffs, like it was the Boston Celtics at minus money of coming out of the Eastern Conference versus the field. Like versus the field. That is absolutely insane. So I'm like, and pretty much they proved like they deserve those odds because it was not much of a challenge like for this team at all. They only had 5-game series and a sweep. Like this team took care of business. Like even though they had some really bad games, or one Miami Heat game, they had one of the greatest shooting performances of all time in the playoffs with the 3-pointers makes. I'm like, okay. They're going to bound to lose that game. So they took care of business of the teams that were in front of them. But if you look at the competition, it just wasn't that good. It wasn't that good. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. They can only beat the teams that are in front of them. But if you look at the rosters, Cleveland Cavaliers lost their best player for Donovan Mitchell for a couple of games. Indiana Pacers lost their guy in Tyrese Halliburton for a couple of games. And the first round, obviously, against the Jimmy Butler-less Miami Heat. So you played 3 consecutive teams and lost their max player. Like these guys are not just their best player. These guys are making max contract money. So these guys are legit perennial all-stars in the NBA right now. So like they beat the teams that they could and they dominated. And okay. But like this is their like right now they're the definition of championship or bust. Because I don't think anybody in Boston is like, woo! Eastern Conference champions, Larry Bird trophy for Jaylen Brown. No, they don't care at all. These Boston fans have been they've been this close too many times. They thought it was last year, especially against the 8th seed of the Miami Heat. That we're gonna make it back to the finals. We're gonna beat whatever the Denver Nuggets, a team that's never won a championship. Like they thought they were there last year, but it was just delayed 1 year, and they're gonna have a terrific opportunity to get it done. Because right now, Kristaps Porzingis he's resting up right now, and they project that he should be able to play in the NBA Finals, and that is a huge addition because this guy's a two-way guy. This guy's two-way guy, rim protector and three-point shooter, and a good. I think he's a solid post player on smaller guys. So you're adding an extra dimension, a guy that they've missed. Like This Boston
It's
Celtics
the only reason the games were close to against the Pacers. He wasn't playing.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, well, the teams they did play against did have injuries, but they also had a significant injury too. Like, I would say Kristaps is probably their third best player on this team right now. Like, Kristaps Porzingis to this team is probably their third best player, and they were without him for pretty much the entire playoff run. So they have not been whole this entire series. And this team that won 64 games in the regular season and had like a 10-plus point differential. So this team's been dominated in the regular season, dominated the postseason, and now you're going to have an opportunity to win it all in the championship game against whoever comes out. So I'm like, this is your opportunity. Yeah. So as I said, I haven't been impressed. But when you win the championship, then I give you your props.
Yeah.
Then I give you your props because the golden path was laid out for you, and you guys just went down the golden path, and you guys did your job. Shout out to Jaylen Brown for winning. He got the largest contract in NBA history, and the conference finals balled out and showed out with one of that pretty much game-sealing three that forced overtime and pretty much sealed the series with that shot.
Unbelievable.
Because if you miss that shot, they're down 1-0. They're down 1-0. And maybe they still win the series in 5 or 6 games, but a 4-game sweep just gives everybody more rest, especially Kristaps Porzingis the time he needs to come back and win the NBA championship run. Because right now, they have everything. Everything's locked and loaded for this team, right? They're fully loaded, ammo, extended mags. They're ready to go to get it done. So, Boston Celtics, this is your opportunity. Let's see if you get it done this playoff run.
I kind of am with you with the Kristaps Porzingis angle with him being injured and him be able to get the extra rest. Only thing that concerns me is it is a calf injury, and I feel like with any of those type of
lingering,
say soft tissue or injuries that is on your leg where you're constantly moving, he might still be great offensively, but defensively, I don't know how quick he could be. Maybe you can hide him a little bit with Al Horford. I don't know, because if they do end up presumably playing, either one of these teams, but it's probably going to be Dallas. But they're going to have bigs in the middle that's going to be able to expose a little bit. So we'll see if he can, bring those bigs out with the shooting, then that'll be different. But I think with Boston too, it's just, they've been here 6 out of the last 8 years. It's a lot of you've been here, done that before, and because it is Boston, a lot of people are just like, to your point, dude, nobody really cares about. Just and a lot of those times they were making it to the Eastern Conference Finals or winning it or whatever. They wasn't giving out trophies, so now they're giving out a trophy. I guess that's cool for maybe the 13 or 14-year-old fan who just is becoming a Boston Celtics fan and is in the early thing of his fandom. He or she thinks that's cool, but any older fan is like, I don't know. Do they even hang banners for Eastern Conference Finals in there?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so
it's a quasi banner,
Yeah, so I guess it's cool that they do that, but most Boston fans are like, look, we had a clear path. The best runway you can get. I don't think I've ever seen
a path this season.
Football, basketball. I don't watch too much baseball in terms of how their regular season went and then going to the playoffs, but I've never seen a path where every star player and sometimes their number 2 got injured and that's just been gifted. And it was timely too. It wasn't you knew before the season. It's just timely injuries were happening. So it's just it almost makes you wonder, are they just due? Because, we're going to be talking about Ant and with Dallas or and with Luka and Kyrie and just how that series is going. Sometimes it's just you got to go through these wars and these battles. And with Jaylen Brown, I kind of figured after I want to say it was game 2 because I think he had 40 in game 2.
Yeah, he had 40.
Either game 2 or game 3. I was like, yeah, he's aiming for the Eastern that award, to win the Eastern Conference Finals MVP or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you kind of look at Tatum's stats were not bad. Tatum was 30-10.
Yeah.
He just shot 45%. Jaylen Brown.
He didn't shoot well. And that's kind of
if you look at his basic stats, points, rebounds, assists, he averaged more points, more rebounds, and more assists than Jaylen Brown.
Yep.
So if you look at basic stats, he technically did better.
He looked better. But the thing that
he hit the shot. That was the big thing.
The shot was the biggest reason because you're going to go back to that because that was the thing that basically shifted the series because Indiana was dead after that. But also Jaylen Brown, especially in games 3 and 4, and with 4 because I was watching that extensively last night, he was making timely threes that was keeping them in it because Indiana kept pushing it from 5 to 8 to 11, and Jaylen Brown would come down and hit a 3.
Yep.
And it would put crack it back down to 8 or crack it back down to 5 or even sometimes tie the game. And the one thing I'm noticing with Tatum that's just the most annoying thing about his game is he relies too much on a guy who's supposedly 6'10", however, 215 with a crazy wingspan on the sidestep, fall back 3. I cannot stand that shot. And he's not shooting well from 3. And it's been a couple years now. He's shooting around 31, 32% in the playoffs. He's not shooting it well. No. And he made one clutch 3. I think they may have been up by a couple or they, it got it within one. He made one clutch 3 down the stretch. But I'm getting to the point now, I trust Jaylen Brown shooting those shots more than I trust. First off, I mean, Jason Tatum's mechanics look weird on the 3. His shot is a little weird. It works for him because
it's a 2-shot
it's
motion.
Yeah, it's kind of like a
Lewis
2-pronged shot. And for me, it works for him because, like I said, he shoots well in the regular season. Now, some could say that don't matter because why aren't you doing it in the playoffs? It's only been 2 years because he was shooting, I think, pretty well the years before.
Oh, yeah, a lot better. It's only been the last 2 years he's been seeing this 8% drop off from 39, 38, 37% from 3. So
nobody – I don't think he's a bad shooter. But, I know we've always had these arguments about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and the universe agrees that Jason Tatum is the better player, but I'm almost starting to think it just kind of seems like Jaylen Brown is the clutcher player. I know Jason Tatum had that 55-point game in the 76ers, and everybody likes to talk about that. But it just seems like with Jaylen Brown, it's not even just clutch moments in terms of the last shot or, like he made in game 1 or like a game-tying layup or whatever he's done in the past. It just feels like he is really good at when it seems like the game is good. Because like I said, Indiana controlled a lot of these games. It wasn't like, it's a 4-game sweep, but not all 4-game sweeps are created equul. These were competitive ass games.
Yeah.
So it's like Indiana was putting pressure on Boston, and it felt like Jaylen Brown was making – Now, I will say Al Horford, I think in game 3, made 7 threes. And it's like, okay, well, that's an outlier.
Career high.
Okay, it's like, okay. And it's like, I wish I was betting on him because I would have smashed that over. But
unfortunately, Sean only had him at 2+ threes. I should have had him at 4, man.
Jesus. Yeah. So it's like, Al Horford had an anomaly. But, Jaylen Brown, I just feel like whether it's that shot in game 1 or when he's been making those timely threes or even making clutch, defensive plays. I think he had a 3-play sequence where he was blocking a shot, got a steal, I think, made a shot. He's just showed up. And it's to me that two things can be true. Jason Tatum is the best player, but I do think Jaylen Brown, and we're going to see in the finals because, like I said, I think the Broncos play Dallas. I think Jaylen Brown as a scorer, I might want him right now more than Tatum. I think his 3-point, first off, his 3-point shot looks a whole lot cleaner than Tatum's. It's a smooth motion. And he shoots it with confidence. And he's not fading back. Every time Jaylen Brown shoots it, he's going forward. Yep. Tatum with that, I don't understand why at 6'10", he's not 6'5" or 6. He's 6'10" doing fadeaways. I don't understand why that's a part of his game. And the 3-point shot alone, for most NBA players, it's not a difficult shot. But why would you make it more difficult when you're fading back or going to the side on these shots? It looks cool if it goes in, but it's it's a harder shot. It's a harder shot. And to me, him being the size he is at 6'9", 6'10", he should be in that mid-range to get easier shots. Because nobody's saying that he's not a good scorer or a great scorer, but it's I feel like he makes it too much harder. And with Jaylen, what he's gonna do. He's usually gonna take the best defensive assignment, and then he's either gonna get to the lane, create contact, get to the line, or he's gonna shoot. To me, I feel like he always has a knack for getting in the corner. You saw that in game 1. You've seen it. He made a big 3 in game 4 where this past game where he had that corner 3 where I want to say it maybe cut it to 2 or 3, but it was that was a huge shot because Indiana had a little bit of momentum. But I just wonder, not wonder, but I kind of just am starting to, I guess you could say put my feet in the ground of Jason Tatum is the better player. I don't want to debate that. But I do want to highlight Jaylen Brown being the guy he's a go-to guy right now. And I think if Jason Tatum, if they go into the finals, Jaylen Brown's on a heater. So, don't try to be in this because these guys have egos. And I'm not saying Jason Tatum would do this, but it's well, listen, I'm the guy on this team. I'm the all-NBA guy, which if you watch this entire playoff stretch, Jaylen Brown should have been on an all-NBA team. I don't know who he could have taken off. Maybe he took off Sabonis. I don't know. But Jaylen Brown should have been on the all-NBA team. And I think he said that during the post game. It's we got all this point differential. Why do we only have one all NBA guy? And I was like, you know what? You're right. He's right.
You know why?
He should be on there.
Do you know why? The voters looked at who's going to impact contracts in the offseason, and Tyrese Halliburton was the guy with the last guard spot. So they picked Halliburton to give him his money, and obviously Halliburton played through injuries, and they were like a surprise
to get
team.
there.
So that's why they pushed him in. He got his Supermax contract, and they did the same thing for Jaylen Brown last year to get his Supermax contract. So if you tell Jaylen, okay, give it to him because it doesn't impact his money now. So I think that is the real reason why.
But isn't it positionless?
That's it. It is positionless, but I think they were in that same tier level of maybe this guy and this guy like up there with like.
I mean, he should have gotten over Sabonis. I think he's Jaylen Brown's like in a vacuum. I think Sabonis is a stat guy. He is a monster because I love Sabonis, but like I mean, Jaylen Brown. I mean, he's even proven in the playoffs. He's gotten deeper in the playoffs than Sabonis. Like he probably should have been on there other than Sabonis, but I mean, it's whatever.
I think
they say it's not positionless, but I mean.
They still kind of compare.
They're still a little positionless.
If they're deciding between two players, they're not going to compare like Giannis to Tyrese. You know, like I'm not saying that on the same level, but you know, just for a very big difference. But I did just want to say to your point, Sean, about the Tatum being the best and Jaylen Brown being the guy you want more right now. I would say I just trust his game more this year and this playoffs than Tatum's. Now Tatum is the better player, and he's
been a better scorer than Terry in the playoffs. We can say that.
Yeah, he's
been a better scorer. I mean, Tatum's got the stats, but
I mean, he's what? Tatum averaged 30 in this series, and
Jaylen Brown averaged like 29 on better.
And 29, right? But on 52% to Tatum's 45, 46%.
I think Brown was like 37, 38 from three.
And he was much higher than on 3-point range. So I just think like I agree with you, Sean, on that. I think I'm not going to debate the Tatum being worse than Jaylen Brown because, you know, we've talked about that. And, you know, you can go any which way that you want. And I think to your point, though, Sean, it can change on any given night. It's just that in this playoffs, Jaylen Brown has had more of those given nights than Tatum has and has done it a bit more consistently. So, honestly.
Has Tatum ever had a quarter three, though, like Jaylen Brown? Has he ever had a moment like that in his career? I'd have to go back and look. But, like, I've never – that's the thing with Tatum.
Against the Sixers when he was raining threes.
The 55, yeah.
Well,
but I'm saying, did he make? No, I'm talking about like what he made. Did he make like a game, basically a game defining where it like tied it up or like to like where it's oh my god, like that type of moment. Tatum, that's the thing.
Jaylen Brown's shot was literally Ray Allen. That's pretty much what it was. It was Ray Allen on the Heat to 4. I know it's the finals and
he got fouled too.
But yeah. But they were down. It was literally to force overtime. Right, so I mean that was pretty much the whole thing. And then once, and the team that hits that shot always has the momentum going into overtime.
Yeah, I knew it was over.
Yep. Second wind.
I think too, it's personality more than anything too. I think because even if you're like, and this is probably just a little bit of the nerd in me, but sometimes I love to like go back and rewind, like when it's going into timeout where like maybe they've been struggling. It's not just Boston, but any team where they're struggling and like who's talking. It's always Jaylen. He's always the most animated on the bench. And I think Tatum's personality is a little bit more
beta.
Passive.
It's a beta personality.
He's not I mean, he'll talk if somebody's talking to him, like, but that's not his, that's not like really his style. That's not, he's not doing what Luka was doing to Gobert. He's not doing that. He's not doing that.
He ain't doing that. Well, I don't know if we want to switch it, but I was going to say that's also a switch that we've seen with Kyrie, because Kyrie used to be kind of the quiet guy on the court, and LeBron was the one kind of running the show, right, being the leader. Mm. Well, you look at this Mavericks team now, and Zoo, I think you pointed this out last week. He's the veteran guy. I mean, you could argue that Luka's a veteran, right? He's very poised. He looks like a veteran. But Kyrie's been there. He's done that, and he's hit some big shots. So it's interesting that Kyrie's kind of done that flip a bit as well and become the vocal leader that Tatum maybe needs to start kind of taking notes on. But
I think
that maybe it's just not him, though.
Yeah, I don't think that's him. He's been in the league longer. I don't think that's his.
Yeah, that's a perfect comparison.
That's a perfect example.
He got that KD personality. He's a beta.
Yep. He's just chilling.
He might have an alpha game, but he got a beta personality, so he makes him a little more of a twin.
That may be why him and Brown work so well together is because, and I'm not saying Brown is a avid trash talker, but you can kind of tell just even in his game along how he plays, it's way more aggressive style. It's more physical. It's more of a he's played. First off, Tatum's a great defender too, but like he's a little bit more. He takes the best. Jaylen Brown usually takes the best defensive assignments. Like his game is a little bit more brash and tougher. So I will I will say that might be part of the reason why they work so well. And like to your point, they haven't won a finals, or not to your point, but the point I've always harped on is they haven't won a finals, but they've gotten there a decent amount of times and they've won the East. So it's like you got to give them kudos for that. And part of the reason why they've been able to do that is because of their personalities. I think they mesh pretty well. Because I do think it's a little bit of a competitive thing. Like I think everybody knows that Tatum is a better player, but I think Brown takes that personal. And as you can see, like, we're going to see in the next round. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up winning the Finals MVP. I almost wonder if I could bet those odds would be.
I'm throwing on it. I ain't making the same mistake twice, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, all I gotta say is like Jaylen Brown, if he wins Finals MVP, I don't think anybody's gonna be shocked as the second best player. Because if you look at Dallas Mavericks, if they're winning a championship, it's 100% chance it's Luka Doncic. And I would say the same thing about the Timberwolves. 100% it's going to be Anthony Edwards. And don't give me that look, man. Don't give me that like Kyrie Irving. I got a
40,
0% chance. 0% chance.
He would have to. He'd have to average 40.
Yeah, like even like if Kyrie's putting 40, Luka Doncic probably putting 35-point triple double, man. Like legit, just like you're not going to win MVP with a guy like that. And same thing, like if Jokic were there, Jokic win MVP. Like these guys are just so impactful in basketball that they're the head of the snake. While Boston Celtics, they got multiple heads. That's what makes this team so good. Like they are a true, more equal dynamic duo with Jaylen Brown responsibility and Jason Tatum responsibility. While Kyrie Irving he's the clear Robin. Like he's the clear Robin and Luka's the Batman. So that share of responsibility and role might make the Boston Celtics a better team and more diverse on attack. So it might be a more dangerous team. That's all I'm gonna say. So,
but I will say I'm gonna make a comment on Kyrie because I do think
Kyrie win finals.
Well, MVP. No, not the finals MVP, but there are moments. But there are moments. I know Luka's hit some big shots in this series, but there are moments where I do trust Kyrie's one-on-one game a little bit more than Luka.
Stop
in this playoffs.
No, I'm actually not mad at that. I'm not mad at that.
Man, please.
Zoo, he's shooting the same percentage as Tatum. He's only averaging 2 points more than Tatum did in his series. He's got 32 on 46% shooting. Kyrie's averaging 27, 28 on 52%, 50+% from three. Come on, man.
Okay, Luka had a bum knee that he had to get off the shooting, Russ, man. But now we're saying healthy Luka. We're saying healthy Luka now. This Luka right now, this guy's a straight killer. The Don has been unleashed, man. He's putting out hits on all these young players.
He is. I'll say that. No, I'm not harping on his game, but I think you're downplaying Kyrie a little bit too much. I think that's what I'm saying. No. If Kyrie doesn't have some of those big PJ Washington, I'm switching over to this Mavs series. Yeah, PJ Washington, Derek Jones Jr., they have not had as good of series as they did in the first.
Not surprising. Not
surprising, but Luka has stepped up, but his efficiency is still about the same. Zoo. He hasn't taken
in this series. This series,
46%.
No, he's shooting. No, the difference is he's now shooting 40% from three.
Yes,
I
agree.
3-point shot has been the key factor in this entire series because in the series before, he was a pretty bad 3-point shooter, especially that first round series. He was shooting 24% from three, and that was the injured Luka.
I agree.
But then you see series by series, he's getting healthier and healthier. 39% against OKC Thunder, and now he's at close to 41% against the Minnesota Timberwolves, which is probably the best team. So
I'm saying that how we always talk about how the best players take a step up in their stats from the regular season. Luka has not taken that step yet. He hasn't done it yet, and maybe it's because of his knee. It's very possible. But
in the regular season, he put up 33, 9 and 9. There's not much to go up to.
I'm talking about his percentages, Zoo. His percentages are not there. His shot selection, sure, he's hitting his three a lot more. But Kyrie's shot selection has been pure pretty much all playoffs. And so I would say he's been more consistent. And to your point, you got the knee. But if they don't have PJ Washington and they don't have Derek Jones Jr. having good games and they're without, who knows how long Derek Lively is going to be out with that scary knee.
Huge loss.
Because let's be honest, Daniel Gafford came in and he had those difference maker moments in Game 3.
He did.
But there was a reason he was losing minutes to Derek Lively.
Yeah,
there was a reason he was starting and then getting pulled about 5-6 minutes into the game. So if it's only relying on Luka and Kyrie again, Luka's been a bit more volatile than Kyrie. That's my whole point. He's just been a little bit more volatile than Kyrie. I'm not saying it's going to be the finals, and that's the reason they lose is because Luka's going to implode. But it is something to monitor seeing how Kyrie has become more aggressive has actually made them playing better. That's my whole point.
And when Kyrie is scoring, that's when
they're winning games,
lethal.
man.
Like Kyrie
Luka's
being
gonna do his.
making passes. No.
Luka's going to do his, but I made the same point about the Timberwolves, man. Ant's always going to get 20 to 30 shots a game, but they're not going to win any games if Cat's shooting 28% from the field, man. You're not shooting 1,500 shots in pregame. I'm sorry.
Liar. He's a liar.
He's a liar. And you know what's funny about that? Look at all their other players. Look at all their other starters plus Naz Reid. They're all shooting 50 to 55%. Well, except Mike Conley. I think he's at 47. But he came up huge in a couple games for the Timberwolves to keep games close. Naz Reid's been playing unbelievable.
Yeah.
Jaden McDaniels has been playing unbelievable. They have been a little bit exposed on the defensive end, which is probably the most surprising thing to me. But Anthony Edwards shooting 38%.
Terrible.
And
Terrible.
Shooting 28%. You're not going to win any games in this series if that's happening. The Stars are out playing the Stars. And let's be honest, Jason Kidd is out coaching Chris Finch and his squad. He is out coaching him. He's out schemed him on the offensive end to get Luka and Kyrie good shots. And he's done something well on the defensive end to make Cat go 0 for 8 from 3 in a game, man. I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm telling you, dude, Cat, like, I remember last series, I was giving this guy props for showing up in the playoffs for 2 series in a row, shooting over 50% for 2 consecutive series. Mm-hmm. He is shooting 28% from the field. 28%. He's shooting 13% from 3 on 7 3 attempts. So he's shooting 7 threes, and he's only hitting 1 a game.
Zoo, how many threes has he actually made in the first 3 games?
He's only made 3 threes.
Out of how many you said what? He's shooting 18%?
Yeah, 7. He's like 23 out of 10. Like
Jesus Christ, man.
I'm like awful. Just straight awful. Like
that's awful.
Like from Cat, I kind of expect this because I was never a big Cat guy. Like he has those games where it gets hot from 3, he gets his confidence, he hits his jump shots, but when he doesn't hit his jump shot, he doesn't really do much else. So like Cat, I expected that. Anthony Edwards though, being tired, man, please. Dude, like Anthony Edwards right now in the paint, he is struggling to score on these Dallas bigs. Like, shout outs again to former Chicago Bull Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, the pick that they tanked for. Well worth it. I'm telling you, like Adam Silver right now watching this tanking thing. Oh, it working right now. Because tanking last year might help the Dallas Mavericks of winning a potential NBA championship. And that is not like Derek Lively.
That's the worst nightmare for Adam Silver.
It is. And like if you look at it, like they tanked on purpose and they got rewarded for tanking. And now they're 1 game away from being the NBA Finals. And this rookie is playing like a young Tyson Chandler. And he trains with Tyson Chandler. So it's not very surprising since Tyson Chandler still has a lot of relations to the Dallas Mavericks. He's the rim runner, the defender that pretty much Luka Doncic needs in his offense. And he got 2 of them right now. And obviously with Derek Lively off, that's going to make the game a little harder. But Jesus Christ, it's just a lot. It's a little bit easy right now. Luka Doncic is playing like an MVP while Ant-Man has shrunk to a little ant.
And here we go. Here you go, Zoo. Start the game. Now this is interesting. Cat just started 2 for 2.
Oh, he's gonna have
probably gonna play well.
Oh, he's gonna have a good game.
And here you go. He's got 9 points in the first quarter, 3 of 6, 1 of 2 from 3. They're playing aggressive. I mean, Luka's already hit 2 threes as well. You know, Kyrie's 1 for 4. So it could be one of those games, man, where it's just this Timberwolves team just can't get consistent scoring from their stars, and that's been just the issue that they didn't have to deal with in the first 2 rounds, and now they're having to deal with it, and they don't know what to do.
I feel like one thing is like they just beat the defending champions, which was a brutal 7-game series. So not only physically you're exhausted, I think you're mentally exhausted too because of all the defensive moves and defensive adjustments and offensive adjustments they had to make to outmaneuver this Denver Nuggets team. And right now, and they probably think that was going to be our hardest matchup in the Western Conference by beating the defending champions. But now this Dallas team comes in, punches them in the face multiple times in these 2 ridiculously close games. Like those were 50-50 games, and losing those games at home, that is just mentally draining too. So I'm like, this is a young T-Wolves team that struggled multiple years in the first round of the playoffs. They finally broke through to the conference finals. But I'm not gonna lie, this kind of reminds me. This might be a little throwback. Almost 20 years ago with KG and the Dirk Nowitzki back in the day. And we got another legendary European, Dirk Nowitzki. And we got an alpha dog in Kevin Garnett. We're having a little reincarnation of that in Luka Doncic versus Ant-Man. So history might be repeating itself right now. History might be repeating itself.
Let's be honest, though. We've seen some 3-0 comebacks, man. We saw it last year. Forced the Game 7. Different teams, of course. But if they win this game, you got to remember, they are going home. I think if they win tonight, it could go 6. I think Mavericks close it at home. At latest, it's going 6. I think the Mavericks would close it in Game 6 in Dallas because if they do take one on the road in Dallas, I mean, they're not back in the series, but they do get to go home. So we'll see how it shakes out, man.
Yeah. Part of the reason with the Minnesota Timberwolves why, I mean, I picked Dallas in 7, but I was worried about their second option. The whole season we heard about how if the Timberwolves play the Nuggets, like they're built to beat the Nuggets. We're going to see how this pans out, and they actually ended up doing it. But I think we're also seeing in all of these playoff matchups, is styles make fights. And I just think with Dallas, it's kind of simple. They have 2 guys who are elite shot makers. They're 2 guys, or I wouldn't say elite 3-point shooters, but they're really, really good 3-point shooters. They both can create off the dribble. And the thing I've noticed about Dallas and how they're attacking Minnesota with Luka is, the difference in the last series is like with Jamal, he's maybe 6'4" on a good day, 6'5". You got Jokic in the middle. But Jalen McDaniels, Nicole Alexander-Walker, they're big wings theoretically in terms of length, but they could match up more with Jamal because they're taller and they're able to, keep up with him laterally. Luka is such a unique guy because he's not only 6'8", he's like 240, 250.
Yeah. He's strong as a bull.
And is an elite passer on top of being an elite creator. Mm-hmm. And you can't really do anything with him when he gets you in a spot. Like when Luka is got his hip on you, or even when he's trying to position you from backing you down, you're kind of at his mercy because you can't really double because you're going to find an open man, and you can't play a one-on-one because he's going to be able to just use his strength to get inside. And I think what we're seeing in the series is Luka's just too strong for Jalen McDaniels. That's why actually Lou Dort was his toughest matchup because Lou Dort, even though he's a little bit shorter, he's just got the brute strength. He's got the brute strength to where Luka can't back him down. So he's got to pass it back out and try to create. And that's where Luka struggles. Like I saw somebody brought up, I saw it on Twitter actually, where they were talking about like, ironically enough, like Ben Simmons was one of Luka's like toughest matchups because Ben Simmons, outside of him being hurt all the time, he's a freak athlete and he's 6'10". And he's like a big guy. He's not like a 215, 210. Like he's a big dude. So I think with these matchups, going back to styles make fights, I just think Luka, once we kind of, I saw in the game one, it's just he could get into the lane. He's so good at decelerating. It's just hard to do anything with that. And, I don't think Derrick Jones Jr., to your point, P. Bush, or PJ Washington's played really like how they played in the last series. But I do think like PJ Washington making that timely shot in the corner in game 3, kind of, it's just part of what makes this team special. And, the Lively injury does suck. But I was telling P. Bush before the pod, like Gafford, when he got up on that lob dunk with Luka, I was just like, dude, he was playing with so much enthusiasm and adrenaline. It was just like, this dude is like, they just, we don't talk about their moves that they made. I mean, we do on this podcast, but we don't talk about, I feel like as a basketball world, we don't talk about the moves in terms of like, they made some very shrewd moves. And it's to your point, I think Drew brought this up, it's like, you're all in now because you got Kyrie, you got Luka in his prime, make moves around the fringes to try to position yourself. Cause like I say, who would have thought Denver was going to lose? So now that Denver lost, it's like the time is now. Same thing we were just talking about Boston a couple minutes ago. The time is now.
Absolutely.
These moments where championships are within your grasp, they don't come very often. I keep saying like all these teams we see right now, I almost want to say we won't see any of these teams in the Final Four next year because the league is that deep. Like it's just that deep. So to me,
maybe the Celtics,
Boston,
that's
like,
it. Yeah.
Maybe Boston, yeah. But like, the league is that deep. So to me, it's like you got to capitalize. And when you have a generational talent like Luka, you just got to figure it out. And that's what their management did. So kudos to them. From the Minnesota side, you got Anthony Edwards. It's the progression. Like, I think I said it after Game 7 when they beat Denver, it's like, so you tell me he's gonna beat KD, Book, Jokic, Murray, Kyrie, Luka, and then end up playing Tatum and Brown and beating them. Like, that's just not how this works. It don't work like that. Like Magic Johnson or whoever, maybe I think he was him. Maybe they're the only players that do that. And Magic Johnson's a Pantheon great. So to me, it's just this is. I mean, the tired stuff. I don't want to hear that because he's 22. So I don't want to hear that. But I do understand like the wall of like mentally, you just came out of a 7-game series and now you got to go figure out how to beat Luka and Kyrie. And to be honest, it's just like in Game 3, there's nothing Minnesota could have done. Yeah. It's just Luka and Kyrie were making like Kyrie had one where I want to say Edwards might have been guarding him, but it was like he was in the corner, did a shot fake, drove left, and shot it left, and it looked like a right-handed layup. Like when Kyrie's making shots like that, and that's why I think, due to Peebush's point, is like I get where he's coming from in terms of like nobody's saying Luka in terms of shot making or like in terms of if they're both playing at their apex, he's better. But like Kyrie is, I saw this tweet on actually TikTok, and it was like a dude talking about if Kyrie was 6'6", he would be a top 5 player all time. I believe it now. I believe it. He is only limited by his height. If he was 6'6", he would be one of the greatest scorers ever we ever
He's
saw.
Like Allen Iverson. It's the Allen
literally.
Iverson.
And I think he's a his bag is like AI maybe. Man, I think Kyrie's a better shooter. Obviously, I think he's a way better shooter. Like Allen Iverson's bag in terms of crossing, like they're probably like wash. You can say that's a wash. But in terms of shot creation, and I've seen Allen Iverson highlights. He was for a little guard. He had elite shot creation too and making tough shots. But Kyrie is just a different type of like. It does not matter if you're his height, 6'6", 6'8", 6'9". He is getting his shot off, and it's clean every time. Like I think people said, it hits the net. It don't like rattle in. It's not luck. It's like, and if he does hit it off the backboard, it's like he meant to do that. Like he is such an elite shot maker to where
it's precision. He's precise.
It's everything with him is just on point. It's mid range. It's at the basket with either who. I don't think I've ever seen a player, regardless of how tall he is, that's made the amount of shots he's made effortlessly. Not like it's like some guys when they make a left-handed layup, it's like you can see they kind of like threw it up there and it goes in still because they're an NBA player. Yeah, but it's like they make it, but it just looked kind of clunky. He literally looks smooth on either hand. That is special. Not like, and that's just the detail that you see with Kyrie, where it's like nobody else is doing that. Look, LeBron is probably one of the only ones, and he's like I think he's actually left-handed or whatever. But like even him, like when he's making left-handed layups, like it looks a little clunky sometimes. Like he is such a unique player and special player that I think, and I was guilty of this. Like when you saw him with KD and Brooklyn, and then his exit with Boston, a lot of that is gotta mature and like he want to get out from LeBron. You messed it up in Boston, and then when you go to Brooklyn, the further I get removed from that, it just strengthens my KD case. Like I just think this is KD's issue. Like it's because KD, like the thing that, and if we want to keep it real, is KD. Everyone likes KD. He don't talk. He's just a hooper. I just want to hoop. I'm just a hooping guy. So everybody loves that. People love people that don't talk. Kyrie's opinionated, and he pisses a lot of people off. So naturally, you're just not going to want to like him. But if we're just strictly speaking about games and what Kyrie's impact is, like that was more of KD's doing. Kyrie's a dude, and he proved it with LeBron, and he's proven it with Luka. When he's the Robin in his specific role, he can show up and make clutch shots and do what he's supposed to do, and that's what he's doing in the series. So I do get P. Bush's point. Like nobody's saying if Dallas is going to win, Luka has to be the man. It has to be like you said was it Game 3 or Game 2, making that's Luka's time. Like Kyrie can do that, but Luka has proven like if you go look at his laundry list of clutch shots that he's made, like Luka's made a lot of them too. So it's like with Luka, he has to be the guy. And when he is the guy, he's going to win the finals MVP. Like I said, unless Kyrie averages 40, then Kyrie will get it. But Luka has to be the dude. But I just think it's the to bring it back, like the simplest way I can explain it is Dallas has 2 shot makers, 2 guys who can get a shot whenever they own. It don't matter who in the world is guarding them. They're going to get their shot off. It's going to be a clean look, and they're probably going to make it. Minnesota has one, and the one that they do have is not really – I don't know what he's doing right now, but like in the last 3 games hasn't shot.
He's got 14 in the first quarter.
Yeah. And he's gunning because he's down 3-0. So, take it with a grain of salt. We'll see what happens with that. But it's just they have 2 elite shot makers. And I'm interested to see. We're going to talk about it next week. Knock on wood if Dallas gets there. I'm really excited to see this final. So
that'll be an interesting one.
Yeah, and
a new young champion.
Yeah, we're gonna get a new champion, and the storylines after whoever wins ends up winning, whether it's Minnesota, Dallas, or Boston. The storylines going into the offseason are going to be fresh for sure, and it's going to be. I mean, the same guys like LeBron, they're always going to dominate. LeBron's going to dominate headlines until he retires, but like it's still going to be fresh in terms of like these are young budding stars on all three of these teams, and that's something that I'm excited for. So, I know a lot of people are disappointed that these are like 7-game series, but I mean it's elite basketball. Like last night's game with Dallas was like that was when you talk about elite shot making, it's just what you want as the NBA fan. Like it's just
that dunk by Ant. I mean, it was that comeback by the
They got it started. They got it started, and it's like back and forth. And it's to me, I always love.
These have been the best. Just like if they win tonight, if the Mavs win tonight, these have been the best sweep series I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Competitive sweeps for sure.
Yeah. Very competitive.
And, we'll see what happens with Dallas and Minnesota. But like I was saying before the pod, it's going to be a little bit more shorter. But we're going to come back next week, hopefully talking about the finals, seeing who's going to be playing and doing what. Make sure you guys are locked in. Basketball season is almost over, but summer's here. It's kind of a little bit more of a lull, but we're gonna have a lot of things coming up with NFL. Like I said, whether it's fantasy football, whether it's different rookies getting acclimated to their rosters. You guys make sure to focus in on Tyson Talks at Instagram, Quantro Knows on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Make sure you listen to us on those mediums, and when you do, give us a 5-star review. Make sure you like and subscribe to get us in the algorithms. And for me, Zoo and P-Bush, we are.
Bye.